Welcome to another episode of Between Two Dots, where we interview intentional people living some pretty cool lives. This week, I have the pleasure of having my co-host and business partner Gilbert Bong, and it's always nice to catch up with your people. You know, we interview strangers essentially every week, and life goes on. So this week, we get to catch up, see what's new and exciting in Gilbert's world at Zelos and other things. But everybody, welcome back, Gilbert. Gil, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks for having me.
It's your house, man. It's just, thank you for coming on and being willing to chat about what's going on in your world. But as we ask everybody, and I see your background I think you're on Zoom right now. But where are you taking the call from?
Yeah, I'm taking the call from home right now, working from home because we are moving offices currently. The building that we were in, it's getting converted from a commercial to residential building, and
Hmm.
we do have a new spot in Home Tower. That's Central Ice and Stephen Avenue, but that won't be available till February 1st. But it's a good time to be without an office, I guess, if there's any good time, just approaching the holidays. So,
Yeah, totally. It is definitely nice. And you mentioned as well too that there's something going on at the kids' school. So you and Doreen get to tag team. But it's nice to have that flexibility where you get to work from wherever. And do you, because you don't have your office yet and you guys are going to be there somewhere in February, how do you and your team typically meet up? Is it just online, or do you guys have like weekly, face-to-face touch bases? Like, how's that work?
yeah, it's largely virtual. It provides everyone kind of the flexibility. But right now we have a part-time analyst that is just finishing up at Mount Royal University. So I think there's going to be a lot more in person once he's kind of done his degree. So we do have a upcoming staff event, so that's good. Just in time for the holidays. It's always nice to
Nice.
see everyone. But this type of business, I think it's even hard to get clients to meet in person sometimes because it's so
Mm.
convenient, especially during COVID and everything like that. It really has kind of changed our way that people view video conferences and virtual meetups, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you can get so much done. Like as we do our podcast every single week, we're meeting with people all over the world through a screen, and it seems like we really connect with them as well too. So it's super nice to be able to do this. And you're right, through COVID, you learned that you don't have to sit in traffic, you don't have to pay for parking, you don't have to get dressed. I mean, waist down. You can do all these things and just do it from home. So once you've been conditioned now to do things differently, it's probably pretty hard to get people if they don't actually have to be in person. But for those listening and maybe just tuning in for the first time, you run Zelos. Tell us what Zelos is, and yeah, give us the elevator pitch.
Yeah, Zelos Investment Counsel is a boutique wealth management firm. We are investment counsel portfolio manager. So what that means is we are fiduciaries and we are able to make investment decisions on behalf of our clients without getting explicit permission, so long as we're managing in accordance to the investment policy statement, which is our governing document. And this tends to be a more challenging registration category to obtain. You need to become a advising representative or portfolio manager. You need to either have a CFA, which is the Chartered Financial Analyst designation, or the Certified Investment Manager certification, as well as prerequisite for a number of years of experience.
Hmm. Okay, amazing. So you're not just a bunch of enthusiasts handling a bunch of people's money. Like you guys are super legit, obviously, and you have these certifications. So thanks for breaking that down. You've built a career in wealth management and now lead the company. What originally drew you to the industry, and like how has your perspective changed over time?
Yeah, we got into the business um, not with a plan to get into wealth management when we started the company. So as of June of 2026, Zelos as a corporation will have been in existence for 10 years. The wealth management side of our practice has been over 8 years in the making. We will have 7 years of investment history track record as
Mhm.
of February of next year. And initially, we set out to create a different type of firm. We were pursuing the creation of a private equity firm. But as businesses go, inevitably there's a lot of pivots and different directional changes along the way. And we eventually started to build what has become the wealth management business, which is our sole focus
Hmm.
as of today.
Okay. And like you said, you plan for one thing, the world takes you in many different directions, and you pivot along the way. How has that shift been for you? Like, are you enjoying the wealth management side more than the other? Like, what's been a shift in yourself as you've gone through kind of these pivots?
Yeah, it's been a great experience, learning curve for sure. I feel that I'm still very new to the wealth game because there's a lot of different professionals that I come across that have been in the industry for years and years. But I also am grateful that I had a first part of my career in investment banking and capital markets because that gave me the training, the um, the structures, the best practices, the connections that
Mhm.
certainly helped in going into the second part of my career, which is completely different from a focus perspective. There's definitely some transferable skills that I've taken, but a lot of it was on the job learning, connecting with professionals that have been in the game for longer, and just learning and adapting, and also trying to take a different view and vantage point of the industry, which has I think has been very helpful because I it's not common that there's a lot of investment bankers that eventually become wealth managers or portfolio managers.
Is that right? Like, where do the investment bankers usually end up, or did they just stick it out as investment bankers?
Yeah, either they stay in investment banking or they will typically go into, sometimes they'll go into private equity or they will go into a corporate development, business development role with a company, typically in the industry sector that they're covering, or some of them have become CFOs and CEOs.
Hmm. Interesting. Why did you choose to go along this path and then create a business versus the traditional route of an investment banker?
Yeah, I had a entrepreneur inkling the last couple of years that I was at my last post, which was at a major Canadian bank. And I knew I wanted to do something more entrepreneurial, but I didn't know what that was. I thought that could have simply been joining a boutique investment bank as an example, but the decision was somewhat made for me. In 2016, uh, I was uh, I was let go as a result of a restructuring. Painting the picture, OPEC had just made their quota announcement, and then oil prices were crashing. Mass layoffs across oil and gas, which that being in Calgary being the primary sector that we service, and there wasn't enough revenue to sustain the current team that we had. So there was layoffs in across our whole platform. At the time, I was working in the energy franchise of a major Canadian bank, and they had offices in Hong Kong, Singapore, Houston, London, and Calgary. And there was, I guess, casualties of that restructuring across all sectors or all centers.
Yeah. Yeah. Nothing like a catastrophic event for you to just reevaluate where you're at and kind of what you want to do with the rest of your time, right? Or next steps. So good for
Yeah.
you. You know?
I had a little bit of a package, so a little bit of runway. So that was fortunate. And I believe that there was the opportunity to potentially continue on in energy investment banking, but decided to try to create a platform and take a different direction.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's pretty cool, and especially like when you think of the origin stories, it's pretty amazing when you think about the early days, and like I can only imagine where your mind was at because you have a young family at that point, or this is probably before that as well too, right? You said 2016. When was Zelos actually? Yeah, when was Zelos created? Was it 2016 as well?
Yes, that's correct. We were
Okay.
incorporated in 2016. Yeah.
Yeah, so you incorporated that same
2016.
year as well too,
Yeah.
as all of it happened. So you didn't waste any time. Like you got a little bit of a package. Did you take any time for yourself when the let go happened, or was it just like, all right, this is my time to just kind of get in there and grind it out and see what happens next?
Not much time. I think I got the news in April of 2016, and then I had started to conceptualize the what we wanted to create, and ended up being introduced to my co-founder, Corrine Stangerlin, and we had breakfast at Kachina, discussed the concept, and I think a couple weeks later we were off to Hong Kong because we were pursuing
Mm,
this uh, foreign capital strategy to try to raise money from high net worth individuals that were located in Hong Kong. And again, ultimately, we didn't pursue that path,
mm.
but we were off to the races and, kind of all in on the opportunity.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, the iterations begin right away. Good for you, man. And like, congratulations. Like you're embarking on like your 10th year now, which is pretty amazing. And as we know, as we talk to many of our guests as well too, like even making it past year one is a feat. I think 90% of businesses fail by year one. Most of them don't make it past year five. So to make it past year 10, you've uh you've got something tangible and you've got something dialed in, and you busted your ass to make it happen. So congratulations to you and your team. And it's been really cool to witness as well too. Like you're pretty humble, man. Like I know you're one of my good friends, but you're someone that doesn't really like toot their own horn, but you're very humble and you just kind of get shit done, and people know you in the industry as someone that's like they can trust you. You're super straightforward. There's no real sharkiness or games behind the scenes. Like I really truly believe that you have other people's interests in mind, and this is why you've kind of become the guy for like values based wealth management. And in today's world as well too. Like how important is it to be values based versus just like, you know what, we're gonna make you money by any means necessary.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I'm in a very interesting position, as I mentioned, kind of in my second career. And the fact is, I know that being involved in this business, whatever forms it takes, will be something that I do until I retire.
Mm,
So, we're really talking about so long as I can remain healthy and excited, 15 to 20-year runway. So, with that being said, I really do have the opportunity to have that long range vision as it relates to how to conduct yourself. The
mm,
fact is, there's a lot of ways that you can kind of take quick wins and conduct yourself in a manner that may run counter to your ethics in order to achieve a certain outcome faster. But just like a great stew, it takes time to really let the flavors soak in and really build something that's going to last and be outstanding, right? So that that's
yeah.
that's the vantage point that I'm going into this in. I do have ambitions, even though, as you mentioned, I do have like that humble demeanor. There is that real hunger as it relates to being able to build a big business, and I'm not sure if I'm
Mm,
going to get there. But with that being said, I'm going to try, and there's a lot of great people that I hope to work with, either as clients or other advisors we might build on or partners along the
mhm.
way. So I'm really excited about the path, and
Yeah.
even though it has been 10 years, it feels like we're just getting started.
Yeah, I mean that's a great attitude, and I love the way you broke that down as well too, because you look at it as just not something you're doing now. This is your life's work, and you're taking this till the day you retire, right? And I love that framework as well too about being excited, doing it the right way, and you're really planning it out as your own kind of life plan. And when you think about wealth management as well too, I think I've heard you talk about it. You're not just planning people's like returns, you're planning also with them kind of their life plans. Would you say that's correct? And if that's the case, like how does that work?
Yeah, I would say that either in conjunction with working with some of our partners or advisors that have chosen to call Zelos home in terms of their platform, a big component of wealth management is planning led now, in the sense that it's really starting with the end in mind. So all your financial and life goals, what are they? What do they look like? One thing that most everyone has to contend with is retirement and what that
Mhm.
looks like. So backing out of that, what kind of retirement are you going to have? Are you going to be traveling all the time? Are you going to just maintain the same lifestyle that you have today, but hopefully are you able to sustain it without having to work? Those are the questions that kind of like back into a financial and life plan.
Mhm.
So in terms of the returns, those tend to be an output at the end of the plan, right? So what rate of return do you need to earn based off of the assumptions that we make in terms of your income and what your lifestyle is going to look like in the future, and back out of what is the minimum return that can achieve that goal, and
Mhm.
anything over and above that is gravy. So we tend to be fairly conservative when we put these things together in order to
Mhm.
give people the parameters as well as the confidence that they're able to meet their financial goals based off of reasonable assumptions.
Yeah. No, that's pretty cool. Like I like that approach as well too. Like look at the end goal and then work backwards. You and your wife Doreen are both entrepreneurs and both done quite well in your businesses as well too. When you're talking about wealth management and your life in general, how often are you two looking at like your own life goals and revisiting some of the stuff like that as well too and adjusting? Like, do you have, weekly sessions, monthly? What does that look like for you personally?
Yeah, for us, we do have like a plan. Ultimately, as it relates to kind of like the investment side, all our funds outside of some direct holdings in private companies. Uh, Besides that, everything is kind of invested in the same programs
Mm-hmm.
that our clients are invested in with Zelos from our pools and model portfolio perspective. And this brings up an interesting concept as it relates to kind of total risk, because like the risk, generally speaking, is it takes into account both your income, your career, as well as your longevity and what your potential earning power is. But because by definition, as it relates to, even though Zelos is approaching 10 years, I think believe Doreen's business is around 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's still a higher degree of risk as it relates to being kind of like a small, medium size business owner in a private
Mm-hmm.
company, right? You don't have the type of liquidity or wherewithal as it relates to some large corporations that we could have found ourselves working with and in. So, with that being said, when taking into account our total risk, our actual investment portfolio is actually probably more uh, risk averse as compared to if I had less risks in my career, I'd probably take more risks with my investments,
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa, because I have more risks in my career, my investments are more conservative.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question, but that was kind of the interesting dynamic as it relates to holistic view of risks and what goes into that equation, right?
No, totally. I think you did for sure. Yeah, and it's nice to see that you eat your own dog food as well too. Like you guys are managing your own money through Zealous, and it's the same pools that your clients have as well too, which is always nice to hear. From like a layman perspective, for me, when money is always somewhat of a taboo subject when you're talking about it in general, which is funny because it shouldn't be. I think there's a big like comparison game of like, oh, I don't want to talk about money in public because I don't want them to know how much I make, or I feel bad about how much I make versus how much I think the other person makes or whatever. Do you find how much of psychology plays into people's money making abilities, but also just like giving you the opportunity to manage their funds as well too? Like how much of a psychologist sometimes do you feel like you are when you talk to these people?
Yeah, it goes a long way. Um, it's interesting because it is a very highly personal topic, and it's all predicated on trust as well as comfort, right? The fact is, it's interesting because you may not actually work with a very close friend from a wealth management perspective because you might feel uncomfortable as it relates to them knowing, your full financial picture.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably akin to, as an example, if you had a buddy that was a doctor and you want to, if you were looking for a family doctor, that may not be on the table because inevitably you don't want him to do your examination or whatever the case may be, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of interesting from that perspective. But comparison is always like a very interesting topic as well, because what I've found over the years as it relates to just a general observation is people that you think have a lot of money don't necessarily have a lot of money, and others that you would have no idea, you may be surprised. So it's
Mm-hmm.
really challenging as it relates to appearance versus reality, but also particularly in the entrepreneurial space and small, medium-sized businesses, I believe that those individuals have a harder time to benchmark themselves. If you are like, as an example, in a stated like profession, like an accountant or a lawyer or an investment banker, you kind of know like the range of compensation
Mm-hmm.
and net wealth that you could expect at any given level. But when you're running a business or an owner or principal, it's really challenging to kind of benchmark yourself because you don't necessarily have that exposure and visibility to peers, as an example.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I've run into individuals that are doing extremely well, but they feel like they're almost ashamed of what they have, as they don't feel like it's enough because there's that expectation or that unknown factor, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so interesting. Like money is so psychological. I'm actually reading a book called The Psychology of Money, and it's a great book. And it's just wild how much of like our own internal dialogue comes into the way that we invest or put money aside or save or whatever. And for someone like me, I never really got into like Quest Trade or some of these like automated platforms that I would put money in because like well, I'm not smart enough to do that. I think I'm way too emotional in terms of when things are going up and down that I'll probably try to end up timing the market and lose all my cash because at that point I feel like I'm just chasing whatever the next big bet is, which I'm going to screw myself. So I really value investment investment advice, but also like wealth management expertise to kind of handle some stuff. And I don't put a ton away. I put a few $100 away per month kind of thing and try to just pop that aside. But it is nice to just know that someone's job is to just take care of that. And there's a risk profile and they're good to go. This episode is brought to you by Bloom Benefits Group. Bloom Benefits is disrupting employee benefits by rethinking the status quo. They provide exceptional customer service while saving you money. Bloom offers group benefits and retirement products, health and wellness accounts, executive benefits, life insurance, and disability and critical illness. Available to companies across Canada, Bloom helps clients save money without interrupting current plans. Check them out at bluebenefits.ca.
Young professionals, families, and entrepreneurs. What makes Zelos Investment Counsel different? Our independence, client focus, and access. Zelos Investment Counsel is independent from banks and brokerages, which ensures clients' best interests are served without corporate conflicts. We are fiduciary portfolio managers with a duty to clients that doesn't exist in the brokerage model. At Zelos Investment Counsel, we exist to care for our clients, and every day we strive to help our clients reach their goals. We provide our clients with access to institutional investment managers and sector specialists through our proprietary investment structure. For more information, book your no obligation meeting today at zelosglobal.com. That's www.zelosglobal.com.
Attention all car owners. Is the winter weather turning your beloved ride into a rusty relic? Fear not, because we've got the solution you've been dreaming of. Crown Rust Protection. Picture this: your car defying the elements, standing strong against rust like a knight in shining armor. Crown Rust Protection is not just a shield, it's an investment in the longevity and resale value of your vehicle. Don't let rust take the wheel. Book your Crown Rust Protection treatment today and let your car embrace its inner superhero. Call now at 403-291-1951 or book your appointment at www.krown.com. Our skilled technicians are ready to give your car the VIP treatment it deserves. Crown Rust Protection, because your car deserves to age like fine wine, not rusty vinegar.
Today's episode is brought to you by Motive, a leading venture builder with over a decade of experience helping corporates and startups build, launch, and scale successful business ventures. Whether you're looking to innovate your business model, develop a game-changing product, or craft a winning go-to-market strategy, Motive is with you every step of the way. Their proven venture building process and technologies help reduce risks and accelerate time to market. Innovation is everywhere. Let's harness it together. Visit motive.digital to learn more. That's Motive spelled M-O-T-I-V.
In the industry, have you found from other shops or whatever, like are they more sharky, or are they, are people pretty cool with keeping you at like maybe a lower risk profile, or are people trying to upsell you towards like a higher risk level for bigger gains on their aspect? How have you found like the nature of the industry in terms of not everybody's like you? You know what I mean? People get in there to make a lot of money.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
would
saying
say
you're making
that.
that, but yeah.
I would say that there's such a range of service providers and companies that you can kind of go to invest your money that it really runs the gamut. So
Hmm.
inevitably, some platforms like the Quest Trade or Wealthsimple, um, the interesting thing about that is it relates to the self-directed route is when something happens or something goes wrong, there's not necessarily someone you could pick up the phone to talk to, right?
Hmm.
So how much is that worth as it relates to that advice that is readily available when you need
Hmm.
it most, right?
Hmm.
So I would say that there's different like philosophies and methodologies and belief systems throughout the industry. So for us, we believe that there is value to active management. So we are active managers where some shops will focus on lower fees and pursuing a passive strategy, which
Hmm.
works when the markets are headed in the right direction, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But inevitably, as an example, we do benchmarking based off of a composite of uh, indices, the TSX index, the MSCI index, which is the global equity markets, and a bond index. And based off of our balance strategy, what we find is we capture historically, as compared to that benchmark, 80% of the market upside. So when the market is up 10%, we're up closer to 8%. But when the market is down 10%, we only have a 60% downside coverage. So we'll be down closer to 6%. So that whole philosophy about winning by not losing over the long run, that's kind of where we really shine. And as I mentioned, a passive index strategy is very attractive when the markets are going up. And
Hmm.
historically speaking, in recent history, the markets have done very well, and that hides a lot of blemishes, right?
For
So
sure. Yeah.
it's only when the tide goes out that you see who's not wearing any clothes when they're swimming.
And just a few great analogies in there. And that was a pretty visual one, which is pretty solid. Yeah, get caught with your pants down. Um, I really like what you said there as well too, like winning by not losing. That's a great strategy. That tells me that you are not playing it safe, but you're very intentional and you're very smart in how you're doing things because you're not taking massive swings and treating. It sounds like you're treating people's money like it's your own, which is probably the way you should be. And I'm sure other people have different risk tolerances, so they want to shoot for the moon and are okay taking monster bets or whatever. But do you ever have you ever had to like turn somebody down because their investment strategy didn't match your guys' philosophy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with
Really?
any type of business, you're not going to be for everyone. And that is something that I had struggled with earlier in my career, but have learned over as I get older. I mean, you're not meant for everyone because inevitably you're not able to service everyone as well, right?
Right.
So what the goal is and what the whole exercise about marketing is really defining that ideal customer avatar and be
Hmm.
able to target those specific individuals to the exclusion of everyone else. So
Hmm.
that really is um, the exercise. And it's easier said than done, right? So
Hmm.
inevitably, when you first start out, inevitably, I think you find yourself saying yes more often than no
For
because
sure.
you just want clients and you want customers. But over the course of time, you have to be more selective as it relates to the individuals that you work with and service, because that will increase your chance of success over the long term.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there has to be like a values alignment. Otherwise, you're just going to burn out trying to, maintain this relationship that's like super tumultuous. It's kind of like dating as well, too, right? Like if you're with the wrong person, it'll suck the life out of you. And then with the right person, you're like, huh, this feels very chill. And it's like I can focus on the rest of my life, not just like putting out these fires constantly. So that's great. I mean, yeah, you would think that's the way to go for sure. It's just finding your fit. And so after 10 years and going through the motions of, of trying to take on a lot of people and potentially work with a lot of businesses and now solely managing or solely focusing on wealth management, if someone were to ask you what your ideal customer profile is, what would you say?
So I have redefined and re-collaborated my ideal customer. Ultimately, what I've been focused is in on is actually providing service and shifting the model from B to C to a B to B to C model. What I mean by
Hmm.
that is inevitably when we first set up Zelos Investment Counsel, we were solely focused on direct client acquisition. But now we work with great partners and advisors and help provide that wealth management function in their practice and businesses. So, what does that mean exactly? Um, Essentially, we have created a platform that is independent, and we have created pools and model portfolios. So these pools, the benefit to them is they are able to aggregate our client capital. So we're able to meet minimum investment sizes for different actively managed funds that
Hmm.
sometimes have a higher threshold. And it would be more challenging for individuals to access directly. So we're getting our clients access to investments that they would normally not be able to access. We provide monthly liquidity, even though some of these funds have 7 to 10 year lockups. And because they are in a mutual fund trust structure, they are eligible for registered accounts like RSPs and TFSAs.
Hmm.
And because we manage these pools in conjunction with 5 model portfolios, this provides a very consistent investment program for the majority of our client assets as it relates to being able to align their suitability and risk profile with the type of portfolio that they should be in. So
Hmm.
this allows us to be very consistent and have the documentation available upon an audit to meet our regulatory requirements. So that's an advantage and a benefit to our partners and advisors that choose to use our platform, because they are busy doing what they do best, which is owning the the client relationship, um, executing on client requests, business development in terms of growing their business, and oftentimes doing financial planning, which, as I mentioned, is a vital component to
Hmm.
the overall wealth management process. But it really allows us to focus on what we do best as it relates to putting together a very meaningful and high quality investment program. And I think ultimately it delivers a better client experience.
Hmm.
So, you have individuals doing what they do best. Is it's it allows people to focus, and overall the client benefits from those various expertise of different professionals.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's a really, really cool system. And really, from what I'm hearing, then is like, is what you're working on then as Zelos creating larger deal flow or like just bigger deals and things that a person like myself was working with an advisor could not access directly, but through then your platform, like I could potentially invest in a hotel that's coming up fractionally or whatever because it's part of your fund that you put together.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the whole concept. Like, scale goes a long way. It's how the largest institutional investors like endowments, pension plans, and sovereign wealth funds are able to own, sports franchises
Hmm.
and infrastructure projects and buildings and that sort of thing. So that's the concept, because why should the largest and most sophisticated institutions only have access to these great opportunities, where working with a firm like us, we are able to access opportunities that typically would have a high minimum investment amount and would be
Hmm.
out of reach to for folks like myself or you.
Right, right. That's pretty cool. And like it sounds I mean, I think what we're always talking about when we meet people is everyone gets inspiration from others, and sometimes you don't have to reinvent the wheel, but you just like ask yourself like, why not me? Why can't we just do that, right? Who are you inspired by when you created Zealous and you've kind of created these pivots, and now you have a clear vision of kind of how you want to set up the company and model?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like people that are in wealth management specifically, or
Yeah, like did you? I mean, again, this is new to me, but when you're having this like aha moment of like, why don't we create our business like this? And add more value to the end person by letting them work with an advisor that does their job. And my job will be to create this like really good investment opportunity or create these partnerships that people now have access to. Do you remember when you had that aha moment, or was that always kind of what you wanted to do?
I think it was really the work that my business partner Kareen Stangerlin had done. So she has the fortunate opportunity to have sat on 2 pension boards at this point, as well as a
Mm,
university endowment. So as a result, and in addition to that, when she was in private equity, she worked with a lot of endowments and pension funds. So just having that exposure to that space,
mm,
she knew that investments looked a certain way as it relates to these sophisticated institutions. So when we were putting together the wealth management platform, we kind of said to ourselves, this doesn't really exist as prevalently for individuals and families. So why don't we endeavor to create it?
Yeah, very cool. I love that. That's a It's amazing when you have that exposure. It just because literally exposes you to something you've never actually thought about, and your mind can't even comprehend what it doesn't know until you've actually seen it, felt it, been a part of it, and then you can just replicate, which is amazing. Um, Good for you. Good for her. Really, really cool for Zelos to see that's the direction you guys are taking, and that's exciting because like even for someone that's is investing, it's kind of like, whew, that opens up a whole new world of opportunity to just be a part of these cool different things that are going on, especially when you have these different partnerships that are happening locally. And would you say that the investments that you're making then, like, are they Canada wide? Are they in North America? Are they global? Where are you guys putting your money right now?
They're truly global at this point. So we have exposure around the globe. Inevitably, there is that bias that financial literature talks about as it relates to the home team bias, where based off of the country that you live in, you tend to have a higher weighting to that country that warrants compared to all the investment opportunities globally, right? So
Hmm.
for us, we try to manage that because inevitably, even though we have clients across BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Ontario currently,
Hmm.
uh, by and large, there is a concentration in Alberta and Calgary just based off of our home headquarters. That is becoming much more diversified as we work with strategic partners across Canada, and we're hoping to add advisors in other geographies as well.
Hmm.
But our investment program does have percentage allocation to Canada that would be more representative of what you would expect as it relates to the Canada's global contribution to overall global GDP. So that allows for clients to be much more diversified, especially if they are based in a resource-centric city like Calgary. Perhaps their careers as well as real estate and other investments are tied to a particular sector.
Hmm.
That really helps bring down the risk for their overall portfolio.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense. Um, yeah, thanks for breaking that down. I think that's pretty cool how you kind of set that up, and the opportunities that you have globally, but it totally makes sense with your network and how big it is here as well too. And I've never met your partner, but I'm assuming she's pretty well connected as well too. And having those folks here, like, 'cause, wealth management is such a people business as well too. Even though your opportunities are global and things like that, you still are dealing with people that you see potentially all the time, and that are counting on you, right, with their funds and stuff like that. So when you think about the way the world is going, automation, AI tools and stuff like that as well too, like how is that affecting your business, and what are you doing to kind of stay true to those facets that Zealous was originally built on?
Yeah, I believe that in this industry, it is going to be very hard to displace that human connection as valued as we move into an age where it has become increasingly digitized and dependent on technology. However, we cannot stay stagnant and not
Hmm.
participate. So I am actively looking for ways to build the ability to utilize like artificial intelligence and machine learning into the business,
Hmm.
um, as it relates to aiding in compliance and reconciliation. Part of our business and marketing strategy is content creation. So as it relates to, coming up with concepts and scripts and things of that nature, inevitably helping to speed up the process as it relates to some of the governing documents, as it relates to our investment policy statements, and
Mm-hmm.
looking ways to incorporate all across the board in measured amounts. So for us, in conjunction with talking to our portfolio managers that we are allocating to, there hasn't been a large adoption as it relates to ultimately utilizing artificial intelligence in investment decisions outside of potentially increasing the capacity and speed to which equity research is done at. But the bottom line is there has been various analogous studies as it relates to man versus man, man versus machine, man utilizing machine. And the greatest combination is effectively humans utilizing technology. I think that will be ultimately yield the superior outcomes in this industry and other industries. So it's really being adaptable, learning as much as you can, and ultimately no one can kind of really predict what the future looks like. But if you are not getting educated and being familiar with how the world is changing, ultimately you're going to be left behind, and that's going to be a disservice to yourself as well as your clients.
Yeah, that's really well put. And I don't think you can get away from the human to human relationship nature part of the business, but utilizing some of these tools to kind of help streamline some of the more other mundane, if you will, or just like background things that are more in line with, yeah, just the things that you have to get done versus the actual like meat and potatoes, which is you and you face to face and those emotional pieces that you have talking to your customers. With that being said as well too, as you grow Zelos, you really want to attract people that are in line with your values and are people, I'm assuming. You're growing your team. Who are you looking for when you look for individuals to, join the Zelos team?
Yeah, inevitably, I'll talk really quickly about our core values, and that being we exist to care for our clients. That's the only reason why we exist in this world, is really to focus on the client care. And if that isn't front and center as it relates to your modality and your focus, then that's probably not a good fit. Our behavior is our brand. It really talks about our action oriented nature as well as our ethical high bar. Don't look or don't necessarily believe the things that I say and write, but really focus on what my actions tell you. That tells you much more than what your words will. And we are intellectually curious. So it goes and talks to some of the elements that I was talking about in terms of being educated, always being curious, trying to discover better ways to do things, and trying to stay on top of what's happening in the markets as well as your community. And that will be a differentiator, but it's also kind of who we are by nature. We're kind of, geeky and curious and wanting to learn more. And that's kind of like a tell as it relates to our corporate culture. So inevitably that will help people self-select, I think. But it's really individuals that are potentially very concerned about doing a high quality job for their clientele, but they feel like they are maybe falling behind because there's too much on their plate. So if there's the value add, there is really to partner with someone that could put together a great investment program for their clients. That's a win-win-win for everyone. For us, our partners are advisors as well as the ultimate client.
Okay, awesome. Are you recruiting right now?
Yes, we're always looking for people. We're looking for new advisors as well as strategic partners. So we have worked well with insurance advisors, accounting firms, other types of advisors that may be dealing with business owners, like merger and acquisition advisors, lenders, debt brokers, mortgage brokers, realtors. So the list goes on and on. It's really anyone that is looking to provide a value-added service to their client, that being wealth management, and
Mhm.
provide something that is recurring and sticky to kind of build a differentiator and a little bit of a moat around their practice.
Okay, awesome. That's that's good to know. I think for the people listening that are maybe in a firm or just thinking about making a change or whatever, why should they jump ship and come to Zealous?
Yeah, I think there's a few elements to that. I mean, first and foremost, we are independent and we don't necessarily have a shareholder that's a private equity firm that has a certain return threshold and timeline that they're trying to hit. So we are really looking to bring back that boutique partnership culture, which is important where in any of those major business discussions, at least you have a voice and seat at the table.
Hmm.
Secondly, we do offer a competitive compensation grid where some advisors will see themselves tap out at 49% of their management fee as an example of that, where we have a scale that allows advisors to run between 50 to 70% depending on assets under management and gross production. And in addition to that, for the right people and the I guess like set kind of like investing and investment criteria, there is the ability to bring on equity partners as well. So those reasons, as well as I mentioned, being able to hand off the investment decisions,
Hmm.
though that kind of forms the value proposition for anyone that may be looking for a different opportunity.
Yeah, amazing. And they get to work with you and your team, which is pretty damn exciting as well too. I love that for you. I think that's amazing that you're growing. Like you sound very clear on the direction that you're taking the company in. You're very clear on the value prop that you bring to your end client. You're very clear on the value prop for your potential advisors that would join your team. It sounds like a lot of clarity is coming together, and it's you guys were in it for 10 years, and you're working towards these things. And as you say, which I love as well too, like you're just getting started, so you still have that hunger, and you keep that going, but what does keep you hungry and focused and wanted to sharpen the steel every single day?
I mean, it's doing meaningful work because I would say, with a high degree of confidence, it's not necessarily about money solely. Like, and inevitably, everyone has to, be able to make a living and be able to pay their bills and have the
Hmm.
prospects of saving for the future. But I would say that inevitably, over the last 10 years, from a monetary perspective, we probably could have made more money working for someone else, a 9 to 5. But
Hmm.
inevitably, we're building something that's going to last and hopefully have longevity over and above the time that we decide to enjoy our lives when we stop working and that sort of thing. So really, it's doing meaningful work. It's building impact. It's also potentially standing up an example of what might be possible to someone that may not, if there's anything that we're saying or what we're doing or our upbringing or our history that speaks to you, that says, hey, I can see myself in that story.
Hmm.
That certainly is something that I also keep in mind, because inevitably there's people that I've looked up to that I can certainly say have inspired me and dragged me along the way.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, no, that's amazing. It's always nice to have this like touch point, because we'll look back on this in a year from now and see where you're at and just be like, that was a moment in time where you got to tell us exactly what you were feeling, where you're at, how things were going. Uh, I appreciate you opening up and just sharing the space and sharing the journey along with us as well too. I think it's a really cool thing that we built here to just tell stories, but then have them live somewhere in an audio format that will be on forever and be able to find and then inspire those who listen. Because I certainly feel inspired every time I talk to you. You're always focused and you got your head on straight and you're always just doing things for the right reason. So I think for those individuals that are looking to potentially look for someone else to invest with, like your guys with it, your team is amazing, but also just joining a company that would be a great place to do meaningful work. Because I think you've got a solid niche, but you have a very strong focus on that end result, but also doing it in an ethical way as well too. Like you said, client management, but servicing your client. Like you always talk about service. You're here to serve. So for those individuals listening right now, looking for a potential change up, highly recommend working with you. And I don't know. Let's give you. I mean, you've had the floor, but if people want to get a hold of you right now, or maybe throw their hat in the ring, how do they do that?
Yeah, I'm active. Probably the platform of choice is LinkedIn, so feel free to connect in, drop me a message. Also happy to get booked in as it relates to no obligation meeting on our website, which is www.zelosglobal.com. Really appreciate the time. I am always impressed as it relates to your interviewing skills. I even when we're co-hosting podcasts, sometimes you'll make some comments and ask the question a certain way. I'm always impressed. So it's great to be on the receiving end of it.
Yeah, thanks, man. And I feel the same way as well too. Like it's been really fun to just co-host with you because I 100% feel the exact same way. Thanks for saying that. But I feel like sometimes I would show up and you ask these hard hitting questions or you like maneuver a certain way as well too. I tell Celine after I'm like, Gil killed it today. Like there was just some really really cool astute delivery. So it's been fun. Like we're going into like we're over 3 years now, right?
Yeah.
And it's just crazy how fast time actually goes and what you can actually get done. I think by the time this goes out, we'll be sitting at around 160-ish episodes. And it's pretty wild, but I look forward to what 2026 has in store. Yeah, Slyn says hi. She's waving over there.
Nice, Lynn.
And he says hi as well too. But yeah, no, let's see what we can do, man. And this is again another call out for anyone in the industry that's looking for a great organization to work with. Reach out to Gil at Zelos and hit him up on LinkedIn. He's very very active. I think what's cool as well too is that, like I said earlier, you do eat your own dog food, but you're at a lot of different events, and you're not at like the flashy networking events. Like that's cool just to be at, but you're really at the events that you're learning things and you're with industry leaders and you're talking about the economy and where things are going, because that's going to fuel your investment thesis or your decision making and stuff like that as well too. So I really do feel like you're committed and you're a lifelong learner, which is great as well too. So I don't think you're going to peak, is what I'm saying. And I think that people that are coming along for the ride with you are very in good hands. So congrats on what you built at Zelos. Here's to another 10 years. And yeah, let's keep it going.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Gilbert. Appreciate you sharing the story. I'll see you on the flip side.
Thank you again for joining us for another episode of Between Two Dots by Intention Media. This podcast is co-hosted by myself, Gilbert Bong, and Hafiz Mita. If you enjoyed this podcast, please rate and review wherever you listen.